You're on an operating table. My little questions are the fingers probing your brain. We do brain surgery here. You teach yourselves the law, but I train your mind.
I love Professor Kingsfield in the law school movie classic Paper Chase. This movie follows the journey of a first-year law student at Harvard Law School. I'm Professor Bo Baez, and today we're going to watch parts of Paper Chase, where I react to the movie. At the end of the video, I will give Paper Chase up to 5 justices for accuracy. Let's jump in. The first thing you'll notice is the large size of this contracts law class. You should expect anywhere from about 50 to somewhere over 100 in a typical law school classroom, depending on where you go to law school. My first year contracts class had 125 students in it. Next, notice that there are assigned seats and a seating chart with everyone's name and picture. This will vary between professors, but I assign seats so that I get to learn my students' names and I get to know them, and also to track who is prepared for class when I ask a question.
Mr. Hart, will you recite the facts of Hawkins versus McGee? I do have your name right. You are Mr. Hart.
Yes, my name is Hart.
You're not speaking loud enough, Mr. Hart. Will you speak up?
Yes, my name is Hart.
Mr. Hart, you're still not speaking loud enough. Will you stand?
Many law professors cold call on students, requiring them to answer questions without giving them any notice that they're going to be called on. But many other professors rely on volunteers to answer questions. You also saw that Professor Kingsfield made the student stand, which is uncommon in legal education today.
Now, will you give us the facts of the case?
I haven't read the case.
Class assignments for the first day are posted on the bulletin boards in Langdale and Austin halls. You must have known that.
No.
You assumed that this first class would be a lecture, an introduction to the course.
Yes, sir.
Never assume anything in my classroom.
Law students have reading assignments beginning on the first day of class. While not on a bulletin board anymore, they will either be online or sent to the class by email. This means you have to have your books before the first day of class. As to Kingsfield demeanor, most law professors are gentler today. Firm, but not usually nasty.
There's one more thing. All that stuff about grades is true. You gotta work like hell. No kidding. Nobody jokes about grades. I mean, try getting a job without them. It's all stacked against you if you don't have the grades. Don't think you got it made just because you go to Harvard.
Maybe I better start studying then.
That's it. Study. There's any law around the dorm. That's it. That's the main rule.
He is absolutely correct. To get a great job out of law school, you have to study. Law school is full of other bright students who all want the few high grades that are given out each semester. It is typical for only 5 to 10% of a class to get A's. This means if you were able to succeed in undergrad without working too hard, that strategy is not going to work in law school. And by study, I mean at least 60 hours of studying a week, which includes the time spent in the classroom. For some of you, 60 hours won't be enough, especially if you are trying to get top grades.
I came to ask you to join my study group.
What's a study group?
It's a device, tool. Groups of first-year students, they get together a couple times a week, review the classwork, the casebooks. They make outlines and then share them. It helps at exam time.
Not every law student joins a study group, but many do. Some groups meet all the time, while others only meet near final exam time. I joined a small study group in law school, and we met really only around finals. I recommend joining one as long as the group members focus on their studies and not socializing. It is important to get feedback from other law students why small groups, or at least a study buddy, will help you succeed.
The study of law is something new and unfamiliar to most of you, unlike any schooling you've ever been through before. We use the Socratic method here. I call on you, ask you a question, and you answer it. Why don't I just give you a lecture? Because through my questions, you learn to teach yourselves. Through this method of questioning, answering, we seek to develop in you the ability to analyze that vast complex of facts that constitute the relationships of members within a given society. Questioning and answering. At times, you may feel that you have found the correct answer. I assure you that this is a total delusion on your part. You will never find the correct, absolute, and final answer. In my classroom, there is always another question to follow your answer. Yes, you're on a treadmill. My little questions spin the tumblers of your mind.
The Socratic method is used in different ways by law school faculty. The approach Kingsfield is describing is the traditional method, which isn't used much today. Under the traditional method, there is never a right answer, with the professor asking questions until you can't answer a question. This method's purpose is to break students, similar to what happens when someone joins the military and goes to boot camp. Today, most professors will not attempt to destroy students by asking them too many questions.
We were just talking about the most sensible thing to do at the beginning is to divide up the courses. Each person be responsible for his particular course. Each person do an outline. Then at the end of the year, we have them Xerox and exchange them. Now, I propose that nobody buys any outlines, because they simply won't reflect the nature of the work we'll have done together.
Just like in Paper Chase, you can purchase or find course outlines online. The problem is that this shortcut often leads to lower grades. The real reason to create your own outlines is so that you can learn the course material at a deeper level. My recommendation is that you first create your own outlines and then compare it to something you purchased. But do not start with a commercially available outline.
But my father is in property. I know that stuff.
Well, that's different. Go ahead and take property. If you like it and you know it, you'll do a better job.
It is very unlikely that this student really knows property, at least at the level needed to succeed in law school. You must master each subject to get top grades, and it doesn't matter that your parent's a lawyer. A parent who's a lawyer can guide their child, but they can't magically transfer their knowledge to their child.
What are the elements that can lead to a party being excused from performing his part of a contract and yet not paying damages? Mr. O'Connor?
Both parties predicate their contract on an assumption about a state of facts, and the assumption is untrue.
Elaborate.
Notice how the classroom discussion is fluid. The professor asks a question. A student answers. And when the student can't answer the question, a bunch of hands go up and the professor calls on someone else. Professors generally will not wait for a student to think about an answer. You must answer the question immediately or get skipped.
Mr. Hart.
It's obvious that notice is not important here. The offer requires no notice. It requires no personal communication. What is important is consideration. Question, did Mrs. Carlyle give anything to the company? The company argues that Mrs. Carlyle, in using the ball, did absolutely nothing for them. All they were interested in was the sale itself. The answer to that is obvious. Of course, they benefit from the sale itself. But beyond this, Consideration does not necessarily, in all cases, have to pass to the other party. Mrs. Carlyle suffered the inconvenience of having to use the ball. She gave something up, even if it didn't pass to the other party. So, you can only have a binding contract when each party gives something to the other or suffers an inconvenience by or from the other party.
Here, our law student provided the perfect answer, and the professor remained silent. Don't expect the professor to affirm you, though he or she might. Often, great answers are met with silence, and the professor moves on to the next issue.
I've been thinking.
About what?
The trouble with entering the upper echelon is that you have to work harder to stay in it.
And you haven't been working hard enough.
I haven't been working hard enough since I've been seeing so much of you. I'm not getting enough sleep. I shouldn't have drunk so much wine. It seems so much energy gets wasted. Kingsfield caught me Friday unprepared, not following the discussion. I swore he'd never catch me unprepared again.
And it's all my fault, is that what you're saying?
Well, you don't give me very much sustenance, Susan.
Much what?
Sustenance. Alimentum victus. Way of life, livelihood, nourishment, support.
Romantic relationships in law school are hard, especially for those who are trying to get top grades. Marriages often fail in law school as spouses often don't understand the commitment that law school requires. Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story wrote, "The law is a jealous mistress and requires a long and constant courtship. It is not to be won by trifling favors, but by lavish homage." Not only during law school, but also after law school, you will find many lawyers with a string of failed marriages.
Now, suppose I write you a contract. It says, I agree for $100 to paint your apartment with white paint. Is there any difference between this and a contract which says, you agree to paint my apartment with white paint, provided I pay you $100? Mr. Brooks. You won't find it in the casebook, Mr. Brooks. This is just a hypothetical.
Much of the classroom discussion will not involve material you read for class. The professor will ask a hypothetical question that builds upon what you read, but is not included anywhere in the reading. This requires a law student to understand the law and apply it to a new set of facts, just like you'll have to do once you become a lawyer.
You just shouldn't have raised your hand in class.
I just thought he was going to ask me to state the facts of the case. I couldn't hold the hypothetical in my mind. It was like my mind was outside his, looking in, watching myself, unable to bring it together. People laughed, didn't they?
No, I didn't hear anybody laughing at you, Kevin.
I heard people laughing.
Yes, other students and sometimes the professor will laugh at a student. Students will also make snide remarks. Unfortunately, the professor moves on and rarely deals with this rude behavior.
You law students, you're all the same. You can't let things alone. You have to organize the endless defining of irrational human behavior into tight little patterns. People are not rational. People are irrational.
She makes a great point about how law students think. After a few months of law school, students begin to organize everything in their life. attempting to put everything into some category.
I think these dead man statutes are unfair. They don't give the plaintiff a chance to testify. Why shouldn't a person be allowed to testify against a dead person?
This is a great view of the classroom. Many are, in fact, circular, like this one, with rows going up.
I need a student to do some research for the supplement to my treatise. Interested?
Sure.
Come round to my office this afternoon. My secretary will give you the basic material. You can get started. It doesn't have to be long. You can do it over the weekend, around 10 pages. I'll expect it bright and early Monday.
Law professors only ask the best students to serve as their research assistants. To ask a first-year law student to help with research is almost unheard of. I reserve these positions for top second or third year students who did well in one of my classes.
What? You got wax in your ears.
Listen, we've got to stick together. That's the whole point of this group.
The whole point of this group is to learn the law.
This is exactly the purpose for a study group. Anything else is a waste of your time.
But we always seem to hear from the same people. Would anyone who has not contributed lately care to speak? Very well, I shall have to ferret you out. Mr. Brooks, we haven't heard from you in a long time. Give us the facts of Tin versus Hoffman.
You will find that some professors move from taking volunteers to cold calling. Cold calling ensures that students are prepared because most don't want to be embarrassed by not being prepared.
I'm sorry, Ashley, but I forgot about the party.
There isn't any party. Kevin tried to kill himself. I'm having a baby and he tried to kill himself.
Where is he?
He's upstairs.
Kevin!
Law school can lead to all kinds of emotional stress. While suicide is rare, there is an increase in depression and substance abuse during law school. Today, most law schools have counselors to help students deal with the stress. The key is to not be ashamed and to go get help early.
It is clear that under such circumstances, the defendant's promise to pay Nielsen's debt was without consideration.
Mr. Hart, what do you think of Mr. O'Connor's argument? Mr. Hart? Mr. Bell, what do you think of Mr. O'Connor's argument?
A professor will often ask one student to critique another student's argument. This doesn't mean the first student was wrong, but it forces the second student to think about the answer and share their opinion. I use this strategy to keep students on their toes, as they often think that I'm asking the question because the first student was wrong. That is not always the case.
Mr. Hart, can you relate our next case to the summary we've been building?
Thank you, I prefer to pass.
What did you say?
Well, I have nothing relevant to say concerning the case. However, when I have something relevant to say, I shall raise my hand.
Mr. Hart, would you step down here?
Excuse me.
Mr. Hart, here is a dime. Call your mother. Tell her there's serious doubt about your becoming a lawyer.
Passing on a question is generally unacceptable in law school. Professors handle it in different ways, though, but generally not by humiliating a student as Kingsfield just did. A former colleague of mine would kick people out of class for not being prepared, and another would just leave the class early because a student wasn't prepared. My approach is to make a public statement that passing is not acceptable and that student will now be called on more often. Also, I make it clear that there will be a grade reduction if they are not prepared the next time I call on them. By the way, some people wonder if Professor Kingsfield was based on a real professor at Harvard. The answer is no, but apparently he was an amalgamation of several Harvard Law School professors. A Harvard Law School alumnus shared the following story about one of the professors that Kingsfield was modeled after. The student was on a boat with another student during duck shooting season. The one student was apparently a very good shot, and he had shot a lot of ducks with a pistol. Suddenly, they saw a boat approaching them, and it was this Harvard Law professor, Kingsfield. When Kingsfield got close to them, he asked if they had shot all the ducks in their boat with only a pistol. When they said that yes, they had, he grabbed his shotgun, he shot a hole into their boat, causing it to sink. He then rowed away and kept hunting. The students took the boat out of the lake and paid for the damaged boat. Today, I am sure the professor would have been arrested.
Thank you. Good luck with your exam. You'll need it.
Giving a professor a standing ovation does happen. I find it personally rewarding when a class chooses to honor me in this way.
Okay, bring on the test.
Notice how the desks are empty. This is a closed book final exam, which covers everything from the time the course started in August all the way till it ended in April. That's right, one final exam for a year-long course. Most law professors will only give a final exam, though you get at least one each semester these days. Today, I'm unaware of any year-long courses with only one final at the end of the year. Also, you will find that some law professors have open book exams rather than closed book exams. I tend to prefer closed book exams because it mimics the bar examination. Ah, yes, grading exams. This is the most tedious part of being a law professor. I often tell people that I teach for free, but they pay me to grade. All right, now is the time for me to give Paper Chase some justices for representing law school life. I am awarding it 4 out of 5 justices because it is almost spot on. Some of the movie's a bit dated, but most of it accurately reflects legal education in the United States today. Don't forget, new videos every other Wednesday, which will help you become a better student and a better lawyer.